Well, good evening, and welcome to this edition of the IslandStats.com football show. I'm your host, Earl Baston. Joining me, co-host Maceo Dill. We are awaiting Punchy Dill, and we are awaiting a very special guest this evening in Antoine Russell from the Paget Lions. But Maceo, we had our chat about Saturday. This show is primarily about Sunday. First Division football. We know last week PHC Zebras were crowned the champions. We've had our chats about PHC. We've had our chats about Devonshire Cougars who finished second, St. George's who finished third, North Village who finished fourth. We, during this show, have given the First Division similar coverage all season. And today, they get the entire show. So, yes. Let's just run down the results from yesterday's final round of the First Division. As we know, Somerset Eagles were the bye team. It was Wolves 1, Paget Lions 2, and we know with that victory, Paget Lions became the First Division champions. Then it was Southampton Rangers 0, Young Man Social Club 2. With that result, Young Man Social Club leapfrogged over Wolves to become the second team to qualify for the promotion spot. In other matches, it was Devonshire Colts 0, BAA 0, and then up at the Somerset Cricket Club after 75 minutes with the match at Island Rangers 1, St. David's 3, the match was abandoned due to an altercation that the referee deemed simply unfit to continue. So we await the Bermuda Football Association's decision on that. But it was in the 75th minute, and as we know, once a game goes across 70 minutes, it could be deemed as a result. But we need to find out all the logistics and everything of what happened. Well, our job is not to find out what happened because people have different opinions. And that's why if anybody knows me and knows how I report, that talking to someone to get an opinion on what they saw, because you could talk to 5 different people and every one of them would have a different opinion of what they saw. So speaking with the officials, the result is an abandoned match after 75 minutes until the association is ready to release the information because people on the side are not the officials. So, and that's why we will not talk about what, quote unquote, somebody saw speaking under terms of not being revealed who they are. Those days are over. They're over. So we'll get on to that. But Maceo, we knew going into the game at the Wellington Oval, the trophy was going to be presented to either Wolves, who were home, or Paget. Paget were leading the league going into the game with 33 points. Wolves were second with 32 points, and Young Men Social Club were third with 31 points. Everyone knew that Southampton Social Club were playing Southampton Rangers. But all the focus was on the match at Wellington Oval. And Maceo, I got there probably about 1:45. And to see the former players of both teams very early. And I'm talking legends of Wolves, legends of Paget, there in their colors. It was, for me, it reminded me of days gone by of how those two teams were supported back in the day. I know you had indicated in the picks, you had taken Paget.
Paget, yeah.
Yeah. I took Wolves only because I knew they had to win in order to get promoted. But your thoughts on Paget winning the league getting the double?
They just Paget had too much experienced players that are able to do it at that level. They had at the end of the day they just had too much. Wolves had Blackie
Yes.
and
Jason Davis. They had
Jason Davis. Yeah, they had Jason Davis and okay,
Tucker.
Tucker, and after that they lacked the people that can get the job done.
Hmm.
After that, so I had a
I'm trying to remember.
conversation.
I'm trying to remember Sub's correct name.
Chemo.
Chemo Smith.
Yeah,
Okay.
chemo,
So
chemo
one of
Smith.
the things I noted. One of the things I noted was Wolves had those three with all the experience that they've had
Yeah,
playing for other teams and really doing well.
yeah.
Paget negated that with one person. Robert Richardson hadn't played for quite some time. He was in and out of the Paget team, but his presence in the team stabilized that entire defense.
Yeah, Roberts always had a bit of quality about him. I mean, he never took off at PHC. He never put the time in at PHC to really take off to match his quality. But
Mhm.
playing in this league and the quality that he has, understanding of the game, he would have nullified anything that Wolves had to dread. So it was him coming in, and I guess it's a testament of his how he's seen football. Even playing for Patrick, he didn't produce a whole season, either through injury or other commitments. But with him there, the problem that we've been talking about, Patrick giving up goals, they would have gave up half less goals this year. Most definitely, if he was available. If he was available for the majority of the season, their goals against would have been significantly less. Yeah.
Mm. One of the things I'm not sure. Were you at Wellington yesterday?
No, I watched the I stayed up this side at the social club. The
Okay.
social club was. Yeah.
So it's funny because the first half, I mean, down at Wellington, we know the wind plays a major factor into the game. Paget won the toss and decided, which was a smart thing, to go against the wind the first half. And in their tactics, it was primarily slowly pace the game down and allow themselves to, have an opportunity to see the first half out. And we're going to be joined by Punchy now. Welcome, Punchy.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. So again, Paget basically slowed the whole process. Every time the ball went out and it was their ball, they took the time. Every time they won a free kick, they took their time. So one of the things that Wolves failed to do, and again, we mentioned it on the Saturday, Wolves had primarily a lot of shorter guys playing up front, right? The one chance that they scored was a ball whipped in, waist height, and Troy Tucker was able to steer the ball into the net. The rest of the time, they were trying to chip the ball over the top. You had Robert Richardson. You had
was Rock there?
Rock was there. They had experienced defenders who can head the ball. The only way you're going to beat Paget was to whip the ball low in around and hope you got a deflection that went in the goal. But they continue to try to cross the ball, and especially in the first half, the only person that had a shot outside the box that was on target was Troy Tucker. Everybody else was trying to do so many different things, and I just want to say we are going to be joined. Punchy, again, welcome. But we're going to be joined right now by Mr. Russell. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing, buddy?
Good.
Good. Well, first of all, congratulations. The Paget Lions were able to do the double. But let's talk a little bit about yesterday, only because the way you guys set up, especially going against the win, what was the thought process for how you were going to approach yesterday's match, that title decider?
To be honest, we knew a point would have won us the league. So obviously we knew that they was going to come up with some sort of aggression. So it's been 2 words I've been telling my players all year, which is controlled aggression. And I knew that, like, Troy and probably Jason Davis is probably the only 2 players that they had that's probably been in a crunch game situation like that. Which I said in the newspaper, I've got about 10 players that's been in that situation time and time throughout their career. And so I always knew, like, we just had to be patient, just get behind him for a little while, let Troy get frustrated, go deep, get the ball, and then once the ball went into the other players, we just put pressure on them. Simple, because we knew that they're not good enough.
Yeah.
And
Let me ask.
the would have overwhelmed them.
Yeah. Let me ask you. Troy getting the ball wide and deep. Did that play into you guys' hands?
Of course. I mean, you're getting the ball on St. George's on top of your 18-yard box. You're no threat to me. Like, it's probably 3 players in that division that would score a goal from 40 yards. And if I'm totally honest, all 3 of the players are probably on my team. Me being one, you know what I mean? Shakur, Aquino, Dion. I could keep going. It's just like it's too much. And so we always knew, like, we just gonna win that game, man. We always knew that.
Yeah. Maceo, you got something for
Most definitely, I got something for 20. What's happened? First of all, I like to congratulate you. Your first real stint as our player coach, and you're been able to get Paget promoted. So so congratulations is definitely in order. I also like to make the comment on public TV. I mean, I've reaped a lot of responsibility towards Patrick Williams as it relates to keeping girls out and what the expectation is. The expectation I had at the beginning is that they don't give up, they don't lose a game. I think you lost 1 game, but the question that I was up for you, and I'm learning the question, is a loaded question. As you know, I ask loaded questions. You definitely have a lot of creativity as how you look at this game. Just as even how you spoke about what you did, what you analyzed. You also appear to be capable of dealing with what I've called personality players. Big personality players. You seem to be capable of doing that. But my question is, now as we transition into next season, what do you think you need going into next season to sustain yourself at that level and to test yourself at that level as a coach?
No difference, to be honest. Like, I know I'm probably gonna need a couple younger players. I probably need a few younger players, but not just younger players of quality. Like, because the biggest thing that like every team that's promoted, players rush to go play for that or do that. And so with me being here, I expect a few players, but I'm not just accepting anyone, because when you talk about players, there's no one with a bigger personality than me. And so then now I'm the coach on top of it. So like I've told these guys, and the reason they respect me is because it's not really like you can't tell players anymore. You have to show them. It's a show me world. And with me being right there, showing you week in, week out, like, it's not just me telling you on Tuesday and Thursday. I actually show it to you on Sunday. You know what I mean? Like, most times I wouldn't train. But if we're doing a drill and it's going alright, then I'll just step in and, this is how it's done. You know what I mean? And that's similar to what I do in the game. I didn't plan on playing this year. Wow, I didn't plan on playing as soon as I did. So, like, the Dion Stubble, Shakur, and all them guys, they just made my job easy, because we never clashed. Our personalities never clashed because we dealt with each other from young. You know, Shakir is one of my best friends. So we just knew each other. We know what gets each other up, what gets each other down. So it just flows.
Let me ask you a quick question, because if people followed your team throughout the season, there were times where it became a little challenging. And obviously you rely on the senior players, such as you named, Shakir, Dion, and others. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging. I mean, you've already indicated you want to be able to show them. So are you saying you're playing next year?
Look at the questions again from Ola.
Hey, they could be loaded about the questions, boy.
The coach that,
They could be loaded with the questions.
Retire on the top.
All right, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna let Punchy jump in.
Okay, his job is here already. How you doing? Congratulations, Ms. Antoine. Congratulations. Yes. Your first year. Yeah, sure. I've seen a couple of, I want to say, I know you're not going to go get over enthused about that, but you know what's coming next. You know what's coming next. My question to you is, sir, I saw you guys in terms of playing in that division that you're playing. My concern would be, or my question to you would be, I saw the game against Norfolk, which is probably your first game against one of the higher divisions, right? And I saw some chinks in your armor, and I'm like, oh, well, what do you think is going to be for next year, your preparation for next year? Because you did say also that your recruitment will be important if you can. But I just wanted to say that was your first time playing it at that level against that opposition, and there were 6 goals scored. So what is your plans for next year? What do you? I'm always the reason why I'm asking this is because Macy and I and I was saying, on a Saturday afternoon or the 9 o'clock on a Friday night, you got to go play against Dendy Tom, and just like what. So my point is that what is you're thinking about for next year? Are you going to be looking for more players? Are you going to play yourself? And I think are you going to play next year, or are you just going to coach?
Next year, the easiest way to get me to play is to keep me around football. That's simple. So if I'm coaching, I'll play. I don't like putting limits on myself. It's like even when I look at like Bermuda, when I played for Bermuda, I didn't retire. Bermuda retired me. So it's more or less, I'm gonna do until I say I'm had enough. And
right.
I like the question about when we played against the higher division, because I heard Macy saying, oh yeah, but Paget gave up girls. If you watch that game against Village, I guarantee Village fans was frightened the first half. They were scared. The referee bailed them out, but the Launching bailed them out of a girl that never was, made it 2-0. Everybody looks at, Paget gave up girls, but what about those teams? See, we gauged ourselves for 45 minutes, because before that 45 minutes, we had a lot of players that's never played, and so then when they realized when we scored, they said, okay, we can play at this level. And so for me, it was just a gauge for next year. So you would gauge it off for 90 minutes. I gauged it off for 45. And I saw Kingston Village's armor. Me at 36, going 37 this year. And it don't matter who we play against next year, what team, we'll be ready. That's what I can say about that.
Yeah. Antoine, let me ask you, because it's a role you played before when you were playing for Robin Hood. To help solidify your team. You're no stranger to playing at your back to supply guys. Could you see yourself helping Patrick Nacksher as a central defender being able to start plays as opposed to finish plays?
Well, I'm chasing 20-year-olds next year. If I'm playing football, they will be chasing me. When you play,
You done that already?
when you play up in front, when you play striker, I could actually choose when to run. And when when you're playing down the back, you have to run or you get scored on. So if I'm
Right.
playing, no,
We lose it.
you can rule that out. Right? You can take that off the start. Right now.
It was a moment. Yeah, it was a moment yesterday when, especially the first half, you and Dion had a conversation. Obviously, Dion was doing a rule of trying to hold the ball up, and you were the chaser. And Dion was saying that you weren't chasing enough. And let's switch. When you have players around you of that intelligence that complements what you know about the game, how easy is it for you to move forward?
Playing with Stavo, he's similar to I could imagine playing with myself in a sense. You know, if it don't matter who you are, coach, if you're not doing what's required, then you calm her down her, and then I'm gonna do it. Like it's just that simple. And I'm always tell these guys when I'm on the field, I'm not your coach. I'm your player, so you have to hold me accountable. If not, if you're looking at me as your coach, you're not gonna hold me accountable as a player. So I'm not giving you my best, and you're not getting my best. So it's just it's gonna work against each other. So. And then, me and Stubbles always had this running joke about who's the best out of the two of us. So now,
who's the best? Who's the best?
I'm one up on him now. I could say I coached him. So this is how I talk to him. Like I said, I coached him. You can't never. Poor be coached. But playing with Stubbles, it's just a different caliber player. Like so, it's kind of easy. This is our first year ever playing together. And I asked him yesterday. I asked myself, all the teams we both played with, I said, well, why we never played together when we was younger? I mean, waiting to Stavus 39, and then I'm just gonna be 37. Like, why now? But you guys, we're actually all Pedro primary now. We're celebrating the trophy now, so
we can hear the cause. We can hear it. Yeah, we got a comment that in a class.
So, Antoine, I have another loaded question, Antoine.
I expect that from you, Mace. Go ahead.
Your cousin.
So, I mean, you would have seen the national team play the other day, and the pros and cons, the pros and cons of it. With some of the players aging out, and then some of the players coming into the national team, like 20-year-olds. I know you're a very ambitious person. Can you speak a bit about what your ambitions are when it comes to coaching? The future of coaching in Bermuda.
I don't put limits on myself. Like I told Pedro, I said I'm here as long as you want me here. If you grow with me. Like so, for me, I don't have any expectations. I don't have any expectations either. I just know that I'm whatever happens, I'll be prepared. I'm prepared for the next level. So I'm working on my badges now. So we just see what happens in the next few years. I'll tell you one thing though. What I saw about Bermuda, it's easy to look at all the negatives, but I didn't. The two kids that came on, Corey Hill's son,
and Sincere Hall.
The other, him.
Yeah, Sincere Hall.
I don't understand. I don't understand why in Bermuda we hold talented players like that on a leash, and then let them go out and play for 20 minutes. Then you're done, and you can see they're willing to express themselves at 2-0. I would have especially going down, playing against Haiti next, without Naki and Dante and all them guys traveling. you're supposed to get these guys comfortable here before they, you know what I mean? Now you're throwing them in against Haiti. And so typical Bermuda fashion, if they do start against Haiti down there, chances are they will get dressed, if I'm being honest. And then what? The Bermuda crowd is going to be done on this and done on that, but they're not going to look at the positive side or how they were just throwing in at the deep end. So for me, like looking at it from a coaching, yes, bro. Looking at it from a coaching point of view, I think that they get these guys, and in my honest opinion, but it's hindsight's 2020, and I'll never question Lighty because Lighty's my favorite coach, at least one of them.
That's a good point.
Any final questions?
Yeah, I want to ask Antoine a question too about what Maceo just added to both of you guys about quality and technical players in this country. Now, I saw this young man playing for you, and I think you do have a few there that when you were playing against us, North Village. I can't remember his name. I'm sure you know he's left-footed. When the second penalty was awarded, I was really impressed by him, his quality. And when Trey Ming had followed him, that young man there, what's his name? That created the second penalty.
DRJ Hart is actually Mario Hassel's son.
Okay. Yeah. So Antoine, in terms of what I saw with your team and like you were saying about the national program, you could see the technical ability of these young players. Like even the player, I would have thought that if this, just my personal opinion, relating to the national program, what is your thought on that young player and the young players that you say did not start? Do you think the future of this country is bright with the young players, or do we need a different person at the helm, people at the helm of the national program with all this talent? Because I still believe they're still like yourself. I thought that even yourself, I thought you should have been included. But I'm just asking this question. With the talent that we have in this country, with what you have, would that be for your young player we're talking about, what would you be talking to him about? Because I think he's the future of the country also with his technical ability.
Oh yeah, his special. We actually flew him in for 3 games. We flew him in for the BA game,
yes,
Village game, and it was one more game before. I can't remember who we played against, but we flew him in for 3 games, and he came back. He actually won 3 penalties, maybe scored 2 goals and an assist inside the 3 games. So it's definitely got some quality about him. But as far as the I can't remember what you asked about the national program.
Okay. Let me. Okay, what I'm saying, Antoine, is that if in the national program with so much technical good players, what we saw in the last 20 minutes, I'm not saying that the other players at the beginning, but we saw a different type of player that came on the 20 minutes, and I think the player that I'm talking about with your team reminds you of those type of players. So,
Well, I told he should be his, if I'm correct, his 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
Rounder. I'm already telling him he should be knocking on the national scores door, because, like, you don't hear about players getting flown in, especially not for a first division game.
Yes.
And therefore, as arrogant as myself and as Dion Stavro are, for us to like request to fly someone in to help us out, like that says a lot about it right there. And I mean, like what I think about them, But as far as the no, and as far as the national squad maybe needing somebody new, I don't think that. I just think Bermuda needs a direction, and right now it's hard to see the direction in where we're going. And I mean, because there's no in between. It's just we have old and we have young. So I don't understand how we have old and young footballers, but there's no in between. Like the guys that are, when I say the in between, I mean the guys that are like from 23 to 29. And you don't have any more of this. So it's like it's kind of strange.
All right, Antoine, I'm gonna comment. I'm gonna read this because this is significant. Antoine, you talk about chasing 20-year-olds playing center back. You can read the play. You're Tonzi Russell's grandson. He was a good teacher. So, what do you say to that, man?
Don't write about being Tonzi Russell's grandson, but I'm 30
But you
years
still
son.
say you look 20-year-old, right?
My nigga was the last minute. I'm 30-year-old son. And so he played last minute. He didn't chase. He had people chasing him. So, and I remember a few years ago, man, I was running next to someone and I was chasing another girl. I remember I used to have another girl to go to get me out of trouble.
Right.
And this is about 5-6 years ago. I can remember the game, I can remember the player, but I'm not going to do him that justice and say it so anyone else could hear it. But I tried to go to the next level and I didn't have it. So, yeah, okay, that's when I started thinking about retiring. You know,
Antoine, I want to ask you another question that's very important. I just want to hear what you got to say about this. What is your relationship and your vision for Paget? What is your relationship with the president of Paget, the vice president? What is it like? What is the future for Paget in terms of, let's say, the next 3 years? What are you looking for, and how is your relationship with the people like the president and the vice president at Paget? Do they have the same vision that you have? Because they see they're very enthusiastic, but I don't know what type of vision they have.
We have a vision. You know, it's like it's in order for Paget to survive, like they have to have a vision beyond me. This is what I tell them. You have to have a vision beyond Dion Starbuck. So when I say a vision beyond us, I mean, like, people will probably think, oh, yo, you have to add under 19, on the 17 team, where I'm thinking the total opposite, where we need to add maybe just a team every year, or just one team per year, and it's progression. So as long as your progression, everything else will take care of itself. So like I said earlier, as long as Paget's willing to grow with me, I'm like, it's no limits on what they could do, because with Kean Butterfield and Jamie, like, me coming Paget started from a conversation at the bar, if I'm honest. Like,
I was there.
It was a neighborhood that was crying out for something different. Like, like, who would have expected a player, like, not to toot my own horn, but like of my caliber, to at maybe like the top of my career right now in Bermuda, to come and like just go play first division ball and decide to coach. You know what I mean? And so like when I did that, I asked a couple guys to come with me. They shared the dream, and it was just like I told them what I needed, and everything I'm asked for since I've been here, that gave me and more. You know what I mean? So it's important that if I'm pulling or pushing, you gotta pull or push in the same direction as me, and everything else will take care of itself. It's like I said, my thing was, like, I was going PhD to play with my nephew and retire. That was supposed to be it. But then playing with him and Marco just gave me like a bit of like I got the hunger back, and then on top of it, it was like it was too easy playing with him. Like, I think we guys all had like 20-something girls last year, league girls, all three of us. So it was kind of like, what's up, Chelsea? We didn't make you walk up the hill? I'm talking to these people. Say hi, lady. Talk to your cousin Macy.
That's enough in bed, those. So Antoine, I'm going to ask you one final question. I know Maceo has one final as well.
All right.
The relationship you have with Don Vickers and how you guys work together, how important is that, even for next season?
Yeah, I mean, Don's just cool, like, Don. If I put it in a team, I ask him about it. If he disagrees, he lets me know, but he lets me know in like in a cool and calm way. So it's like I kind of pick up on what he's saying. And so I just said, okay, cool. But for the most part, like, he just trusts my judgment. You know what I mean? So, like, that's what I can say about him. I have nothing but respect for Don.
Okay. Macy, you got the final question.
Sure. There you mentioned Marco Warren, and obviously I understand the influence that you have over a Marco Warren. He was definitely a player for me that was missing from our national team yesterday. You know, with his creativity and what he could have potentially done in playing balls forward and finding gaps to play. You know, what would you say to a Marco Warren, you know, as it relates to his sort of true potential in playing, you know, playing on a level as Bermuda, especially with these younger players coming through? Because for me, he still has a lot of football left. Well, you know, how are you looking at that situation, and what messages that you will send to a Marco Warren?
What you want? You want me to give a political answer? My honest answer.
I didn't know that. That's why I didn't know that you had political answers, man. That's why.
Hey, when you become a coach, you change.
I didn't know that you had
Kind of,
political
Antoine, when you become a coach, it changes up, doesn't it?
Yeah. You got political answers
Gotta
now?
watch my words because I could do that for you.
Yeah.
What I tell Marco, what I will honestly tell Marco is to retire from Bermuda. Because every coach, no matter who's the coach that's been there, hasn't given him like that first shot. In my opinion. That don't make it a fact, it's my opinion. So like for everyone that's listening, you ain't gotta challenge me because that's just my opinion. So I tell Marco retire and don't waste your time. Because Bermuda has a strange way of retiring his best players and making the best players lose interest in the national team.
Well,
My political answer?
Good point. No, I don't even want your political answer now. I don't even need your political answer. I can run with that.
Yeah,
Oh boy!
That's what I tell him. Every coach that goes here, oh yeah, they don't give Marco a chance. And they go in, then all the guys that he destroys, you're in, you're out. Like, I mean, not only because it's my cousin, it's just been the best player for the last 10 years. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
How your MVP? He's going to be the MVP again this year. No secret. How you been MVP every year? He's been an MVP. It's like I've been the leading goal scorer. It's just a joke. Like,
yeah, fair enough.
Well,
he don't. So,
well, let me just say, congratulations. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. We look forward to hopefully bringing you on again before the start of next season. The players you pick up and what the attention is going to be for the upcoming season. So enjoy the summer, enjoy the celebrations because we can hear the Gumbays in the background, so we know you guys are getting ready to have a good time this evening. Continue to celebrate. You've done the job you set out to do, and we want to congratulate you. All right?
Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk the Social Club Southampton Rangers match. We'll be right back. Thank you.
John Barrett & Son is bringing us something fresh and exciting for the new year. Bai Antioxidant Infusion Beverage. Bai delivers the natural antioxidant benefits of the coffee fruit in glorious combination with a variety of exotic fruit flavors, with only 1 gram of sugar and 10 calories per bottle. The folks at Bai are inviting us on a world tour through these amazing flavors. Brasilia blueberry, Zambia Bing cherry, Costa Rica clementine, Malawi mango, Panama peach, Ipanema pomegranate, Kupang strawberry kiwi, and more. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
And welcome back. Well, we know at the Wellington Oval, the trophy was going to be presented to one of those two teams, either the Patriot Lions or Wolves, depending on the result. But there was another team that had a lot to play for up at the Southampton Oval, in the hope that one of these two teams slipped up, and that was Young Men's Social Club. Young Men's Social Club defeated Southampton Rangers 2-0, and with the result of Paget defeating Wolves, Young Men's Social Club became the second team to earn promotion to the Premier Division. I spent most of last night and today trying to determine when was the last time the Young Men's Social Club were in the Premier Division, or the top flight of football in Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
Still working on it.
I got you. Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago, to be honest.
When was it?
It was they were promoted, I think, just for one season, maybe a decade ago. Maybe a decade ago they were promoted, and they just went right back home afterwards. But prior to that, it was like 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they did win promotion, and I'm trying to remember the group of players. I'm wondering if it was Streaker and Gould at the time, and he put a shift in for them that they got promoted. I'm just trying to remember. It was coming just at the end of my tenure at North Village that they actually, they got promoted. It's coming back to me shortly as the group of players that they had at their disposal that did win promotion, but again they didn't sustain themselves. They didn't even sustain themselves with like 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
You knew 3 games into it that they wasn't gonna sustain themselves because they kind of were unable to pick up players, and it was just too overwhelming for them. But prior to that, they've been in the wilderness for like 40 years.
Punchy, you've talked about Young Men's Social Club. You've talked about the central located clubs.
Yeah.
Now, in the Premier Division,
Mm-hmm.
right, you have Social Club, North Village, Denley Town, Devonshire Cougars.
Mm-hmm.
I already said Denley Town. So 4 with BAA knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Boulevard just relegated. Robin Hood just relegated.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking 8 clubs within. You could throw a rock. Oh, Devonshire Colts, they're on.
Yeah.
Throw a rock.
Yeah.
To each ground, and from a ground, and end up at the next ground. How does this affect the football in the central areas of Bermuda?
Good question now. Good question. As you know, the central area is dominating football now.
Yeah.
Besides, well, we won't put PAC out of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be a real challenge. But first of all, I want to congratulate Social Club for all these years. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, just I'm sure it's a good moment for them. But again, their club has been in the wilderness for so long, and I know they're going to have to need recruitment. But getting back to your initial question about the central areas, it's with Google said with Social Club, with North Village, and Denny Town, that's a strong group of in the central areas. The weaker one of now will be, as I would say, will be Social Club right now, and it's going to be a real test for them this year. Really a test for them. I'm sure Denny Town is going to rebound. I'm very sure of that. Yeah, they will. They'll wake up from that slumber and realize that that was what happened this year. Cougars are still going to be a force, as we all know, and they will grow. They definitely will grow. With North Village again, there's still I think it's still something in progress. I think at North Village, but again, getting back to the central teams, I think they're going to still dominate. They're going to be part of the dominating in terms of trophies and the league titles. So yeah, and BA ain't going away, even though they didn't get promoted. They're not going away at all. And then you still got Wolves, but we even had Wolves today.
Yeah.
And so that's right. Yeah. But again, I think it's good for the country. It is good for the central areas. But so many teams. Can you imagine on a Friday night or Saturday night Social Club where they play a Denny Town on BA? Because it's coming. It's definitely coming. Yeah. And then it's a Sunday afternoon. The next Sunday you got to play North Village down at the park. So it's a test for them. It's going to be a real test for them. But again, the central areas, what's happening? I'd say in this country, in the central areas, minus BAC, are definitely dominating football now. They're definitely dominant. And you got to look at his coaching too.
Yeah. You
got to look at who's at the coaching now. Who's Boulevard ain't gonna go. Boulevard is. I don't think Boulevard's gonna stay down that league next year. Also, I think they will be fixed that, and they'll be chasing promotion next year. But so I like I just think the central areas with these 4 teams now are gonna be a real force now. And even though we talk about Social Club and who knows, we'll see. We'll see after 2 games next year.
Definitely. Macy, your thoughts on Social Club? I mean, at the beginning of the season, you started talking early about them, but then you kind of shied away from them when they went through that patch, because there was a period where they went through a rough patch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I saw him play early in the season, right? And I was like, okay, well, I got a little something about him, but I'm not getting excited. I'm not getting excited because I know Social Club, they go back to the old ways. So when they went through that patch, usually when they go back to that old ways, they implode. So, I mean, you have to respect that they didn't implode, that they recovered from that patch. And that's what it's about, right? Even the top teams go through a patch. And Man City goes through a patch that they quickly recover from, and they go on. So you have to respect that. You have to respect that they recovered, and to put themselves in this position to be promoted. Because I wasn't banking on them being promoted. My choices were BA and Paget. They were my choices, and BA had their implosion late in the season when the pressure hit. I read the captain's article today in the RG. They imploded when the pressure hit, and Social Club got stronger when the pressure hit. So you do have to respect that. You do have to appreciate that. As it relates to their next season, I don't have a lot of hopes for them. And as the conversation about the central clubs with so many players, so many clubs in the central area, the recruitment gets hard. Recruitment,
that's what I really want to bring up. I mean, if you look at it, okay, So Boulevard went down,
Mhm.
Robin Hood went down. Social Club came up, went with Paget. Okay. Paget got an influx of an abundance of PhD players
And Rangers players. Yeah.
and Rangers players, right? Where do you think, or where possibly could the abundance of players to help Social Club this time around come from?
Well, Social Club used to, when you look at historical relationships, Social Club used to get their players out of North Village that didn't make it. So you take Randy Spence. They
Yes.
used to get their players out of North Village or out of Dennytown. Even if you look Pinks Lewis, that's where they used to get that players. Now that relationship's not there where they're getting their players anymore. I don't know that Boulevard players transition to Social Club. I don't think because of let's talk about the off the field behaviors that were here that impacted our field. The
Right.
Boulevard players doesn't transition around to Social Club, so they're not gonna get players. They're not gonna get players from there. There still seems to be a little smidgen of relationship with Danny Tom because the boy the goal scorer for the Dreads for Social Club.
Yes. David Jones Jr.
David Jones, he does come from Danny Tom.
Mhm.
He comes from Danny Tom. Danny Tom potentially is knocking on his door because he wasn't happy at Danny Tom and he went to Social Club and he's now
Playing fullback at Dendytown, but
Yeah.
it's not playing further forward for Social Club, and ends up scoring. Was that 14 goals in the season?
14 goals. There could be a situation where his first love, he ends up back there because now he's established himself. These are all the possibilities that are happening. I don't see them picking up any players from North Village as they historically done in the past. I mean, they used to pick up from North Village like Quincy Painter, Sheridan Jennings, and those players that were always.
So let me ask you, because the funny part is, as we know, and you mentioned his name, Quincy Painter, his son plays for Devonshire Colts.
No, yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
does his son go to where his father's got ties from?
And those are all the possibilities, right? Those are all the possibilities that he goes there and rekindles his career. But it becomes a little difficult right now with the scarce resources of players. So what's going to happen? I know players at like it's a player George Dublin at Colts. He's not going to stay at Colts another year. I guarantee you that he won't stay at Colts now that he's been back in Bermuda, has integrated himself into football. Does the North Village come knocking, or does Sergio Goda that brought him up in the youth league come knocking? He's not going to. So it's just not enough players. That's the reality of it. Is not enough players anymore. Where before we had a North Village, we had an abundance of players that they can go and create another team. Remember when we had to create? We're in an opposite situation that we were in before, where we used to have to create teams so people could play. Like my dad played for Santos because he couldn't get into the North Village team. And Santos had a lot of players that were really good. Right now, we're in a situation where we've got too many clubs and not enough players. So like Social Club and Boulevard could be one club or something like that, right? And just like Paget and Rangers could be one club, right?
Yeah. Punchy, let me ask you, because it's interesting Macy you brought up Boulevard. So at the beginning of the season, Boulevard pick up Janaze and Samuels and
Davis.
Yes. Davis. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And when we looked at those two pickups, we had high hopes for Boulevard. However, when you lose the likes of somebody of a leading role model of Ian Cook, that I think was the catalyst for Boulevard's demise.
Yes.
You know, if you look at somebody like, and we've seen Ian over the years carry Boulevard, but the fact that he was at a time in his career and his life walk away from them, where do they go from here? Where does Boulevard go from here?
I do know that I'm sure that Josiah Samuels is not going to stay there. I'm heard to be a great one. He's going to, you know, he was suspected to play for Norfolk this last year. The best thing for him is to move on. I think he's going to be moving back just to the neighbors, moving back to North Village. I believe that's on the cards. I believe so.
He was at any time the season before, yeah.
Yes, yeah. The other thing is a Boulevard. I'm sure Clay Darrow is Clay Darrow at Boulevard?
Yeah.
So you know where he's going to go next. I'm sure he's going back to Social Club.
Yeah.
So
he could go to
yeah.
Social Club.
Yeah, and the other one I want to add to that, there's LaShawn Deal that came up through Social Club too. Am I correct? He was yeah, he was in Georgia. So now I'm thinking, oh, they're going to pick up a few players, but look at the type of players they're picking up. You know, Clay Darrow, he's shuffled between teams. Still a very good. I still think he's really good, a technical player. And LaShawn, LaShawn's getting older, but I'm sure somebody's going to try to get him back at Social Club. And I won't be surprised if you see him there next year.
Yeah.
When we're talking about abundance of players in, Macy, in the central areas, but abundance of good players or just number.
Yeah.
And I think I see some teams just got players that make up the numbers. And I wonder Social Club is going to be one of those teams. As typical thing that we talked about through the year. Let's look at Hamilton Parish. When they were playing last year in the other division, of course, you expected that they were going to school goals. Now this year, stepping up to the noon, up into that other division, it changed. And look what's happened. Look where they came. I'm not saying this, and not saying the building, but what was most interesting about watching Hamilton Parish and the growth of Hamilton Parish. I think Hamilton Parish got some pretty good players.
Yes.
It's the consistency, and the minute they were knocked out of the FA Cup and they were losing the league, and then you just saw them dwindle on. They just fell by the wayside. And then on the North Village, when we played them down there that day, they only had 13 players.
Yeah.
So my concern for that, and you can have an abundance of abundance of players, but you need talent and you need commitment.
Yeah.
Right. And you need to, and I think a lot of like Social Club need to know what is the direction. I think Antoine's got it right. He's going to make sure that what happens to the young players that will come through, and I hope they stick with the people that play with. They came up through Paget program. Stay with Paget.
Yeah. I think what you're alluding to is the problem of next season. If the likes of St. George's, Hamilton Parish, Crossroads, Social Club, and Paget, in the ability to pick up players. What players are available to strengthen their squad?
And see, and you know what we're not talking about in this? We're recycling existing players, but we're not talking about because there's not there is becoming damaging that we're not got 20 youth players that can come through.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very damaging. These clubs, Social Club doesn't have youth players. Right now, Hamilton Parish is not in position with youth players. The recruitment's coming from up top. Crossroads don't have youth players coming through. St. George's is filling their gaps with their youth players at that age. I mean, we struggle across the board in Bermuda for under 17 league. So across the board, we struggle for under 17 league, and we don't have a reserve league anymore. So remember, when we used to have a reserve league to accommodate players playing because it was too much. So that is the problem where we're going to recycle these players at the senior level, but we're not supplementing it with youth players because we're not developing them no more.
Right.
So that becomes that is the scary part about all this here, right? That's the scary part about everything, that we're not putting more players into the mix.
Right. We haven't gotten to this match, but the abandoned match at the Somerset Cricket Club where St. David's were leading 3-1. The Bermuda Football Association has just released a statement, and it states, the Bermuda Football Association acknowledges the abandoned football match on Sunday, March 26, 2023, between Island Rangers and St. David's at the Somerset Cricket Club. It was abandoned due to unsporting behavior by players from both teams. We recognize the impact unsporting behavior has on the game of football. As a result, we are working to ensure that we follow due process per the disciplinary code. This includes a review of the video footage. It also includes a review of the official match reports from the match commissioner and referee. As these matters may be subject to disciplinary actions, no further comment will be provided on the details of this specific incident. Overall, these types of events have not been the norm in recent years, and the Bermuda Football Association remains committed to maintaining the integrity of the sport and ensuring that such incidents are dealt with appropriately. Globally, football brings people together from all walks of life and provides players with opportunities to showcase their skills and compete in a fair and respectful manner. It is essential that we remind ourselves that the facts, regardless of the individual rule in the beautiful game. The BFA would like to thank the fans and players who continue to support and uphold the values of the sport. And that is the latest from the Bermuda Football Association regarding the abandoned match after 75 minutes up at the Somerset Cricket Club yesterday between Island Rangers and St. David's. What we're going to do, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about that match as well as the end of the season for BAA and the Devonshire Colts. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be my life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seen this?
Here's one of our favorite feature brands, true veterans of the food awareness movement. Bob's Red Mill, the U.S. leading miller of organic whole grain foods. Only whole grains have the entire value developed during growth. And once you try them, you know that this is the way food was intended to be. Try Bob's Red Mill blanched almond, whole wheat pastry, and artisan bread flours, and 1-to-1 gluten-free baking flour, unsweetened shredded coconut, gluten-free homemade wonderful bread mix, and a variety of rolled oats. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Well, we know the season came to an end. First up at the Somerset Cricket Club, where after 75 minutes, the match was abandoned. Disappointing way to end the season, especially when the Somerset community was mourning two big losses in that community. We want to extend our condolences to the family of the late Diane Hunt, who, if anyone knows Somerset Cricket Club, Miss Hunt was a pillar of that entire club and the community of that club. She, in speaking with her years ago, she was one of, I think it even indicates in his book, Clyde Best, she was his rock when he went to the UK. She was with him and helped him through those trying times. And I know not only the Somerset community, but the community at Hull will be missing Miss Diane Hunt. As and we could smile about it. As tiny as she was a giant of a lady in the Somerset community. And of course, Pop Simmons, Pop, a good friend of mine, and unfortunately he passed away as well. But you know, to be on the Somerset Cricket Club grounds and to have your season end after 75 minutes, after what that community is going through,
it's just disheartening, right? I mean, the thing about it that doesn't make any sense. Both teams weren't really playing for anything
other than to play,
other than to play.
Season.
Other than to complete the season. And you know, I don't know if it's two ways of looking at that okay, because they're not playing for anything, it becomes meaningless how they behave towards the game, you know, because nothing's on the line. Maybe they'd be more responsible if something's on the line. I don't know. But and again, that should never be happening, right? That should never be happening in these circumstances. And it is a slight to otherwise manageable season that we're here. Now, you know, we're had some troubles around the game in the years, and you know, I know there's a lot of work being done to counteract those problems. You know, so for that to finish off at the last game of the season is definitely disheartening, right?
I'm just wondering why it wasn't considered a handbag snatch as the rugby was when I reported that there was a similar incident, but the paper came back and said nothing wrong with it. It happens all the time in rugby. But anyway, the final match of Miss Hunt was Glenn Simmons' sister. Yes, thank you very much. The final match of the First Division for the season saw Devonshire Colts and BAA play to a 0-0 draw. We had a lot of high hopes for that young BAA team, and inexperience in the end hurt them. They'll probably lose a handful of players to a different education path next season, but there'll be a new group of youngsters coming through.
And that's what we was talking about earlier, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, you have new players coming through. They have a different problem. They don't have senior players staying up there, all right? But they have new players coming through.
I'm sorry. My perspective on that is that I think I said this earlier in the program a couple of months ago. I think Andrew is not. I don't think Andrew was over worried about promotion.
Right.
I think he's more worried about development. Development. What his what he's doing out there. And I think he's saying, look, education is most important.
Yes.
And I think that's paramount in terms of what BA are trying to achieve. And look what they're going to. Remember the tournament they were going to also.
They left.
So even if not that they weren't promoted, I don't think it's disheartening for Andrew. I think it's just what his mindset is that, okay, I'm going to educate these guys about football, and it's worked.
Yeah.
I think it's worked. About Devonshire Colts, that's a whole new story there. That's a totally new story there with what's happening at that club. It's funny. I was up to the game, and Larry Smith and Pepe Deal were behind me at the game on Saturday, and they were, of course, what they witnessed was like, whoa. But I didn't ask them too much question. But I wonder what their mindset is about what their club, their great club, that they had founded, and I mean the football that was played by them. I mean, what? Honey, they must be. It must be disheartening to them also.
I could
Really?
say, and it would be Punchy. It would be,
Yes.
but it's even how you would look at the current North Village players. How
Yeah.
many of them really play from the heart?
Well,
You
right.
And you
This-
guys,
Yeah.
it was a different approach to the game. It was. We wanted to be better, so we trained harder. We trained often. We done all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Today's players show up on a Sunday,
Yeah.
put on a jersey, get in the huddle, scream as loud as they can, and then after that, it's deflated me.
So are we talking about? And I think I had this on the funny side. Are we talking about just a family outing for players on Sunday afternoon? Is that like a family? Oh, my boyfriend's playing. So it's a family outing. It's like I'm actually, when we talk about Island Rangers and St. David's,
Mhm.
like, even though what happened, I'm very sorry for what happened. It was really bad, really bad.
Why would
But
you
again,
like to be
what
if you're
like-
not fighting for promotion or relegation?
Yeah, but even though if you're not, there's got to be some type of, there's got to be something in place that says, listen, respect for the game. And when you're not, your intent is just to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And then with all the problems that we had socially,
Yeah.
the East and the West problems, everybody, we know that. So it's going to boil over. My problem is, again, not my problem, is what we're talking about here. With the West End, I've always said, look at the demise of the West End teams from Southampton Rangers go west,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
With the social problems that's going on up there, that's happening in the West End. But also, look what's happening to St. David's. It's scary because players are just playing. Are the clubs got a direction? Island Rangers got a direction. What's St. David? Do they have direction? What do they?
Yeah.
And I would say this. I will go as much as say this, sir. They have some. I've seen St. David's got some beautiful young players.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the St. David's born and bred, don't mean they got to stay there. It's got to make a change to say, listen, this ain't good enough for me. I'm going to move this way. And that's what's got to happen.
Mm.
I love you guys. Oh, I love playing with you guys. But that ain't good for me. And I'm only going to say this, sir. I've got to say this, sir. You parents have got to see the picture also.
Mm.
If your son is a talented 10-year-old and he's at St. David's, what's his next move? What do you want from him? It's not going to work at St. David's.
Yeah.
It's not going to work at Island Rangers. So now it's time to think about this. With most parents thinking, "Oh, my son can go overseas if he gets a scholarship," but it ain't going to happen if you stay on St. David's. So that's the dilemma that we're in here now. We're talking about this, sir. The directions of clubs.
Yeah.
Are they just there to just show up and have a good time at the bar and everything? What's next for that? And it's scary.
Yeah.
Because
I'm going to say, Maceo, Punchy makes a valid point in that where's the youth programs? The association some years ago made it mandatory that you have to have a youth program. I honestly believe the same thing that happened with the coaches thing happened with the youth program thing, where the clubs then decided, no, we're not going to do that. How do we figure out, because in order for a club to survive, you have to have a youth program.
So I'm gonna put a different spin on my different hat. The savior of football, the savior of sports in Bermuda, has to come from the government legalizing sports. And when I say legalizing sports, you have every country that has made sports relevant to them is done it from legislation. So even legislation that says after the sports game you got to talk to the media.
Mm.
Even you got to give a press interview because it makes sports relevant. It makes sports accountable. Legislation that says, this is who's got to coach it. So let's suggest what the clubs just did. We're voting out coaching education. If it was legislation and it was a law that was coming from the Bermuda government and the government, you can't vote on coaching. You can't vote out that. In other countries, that is law. And if you break the law, you can get prosecuted for breaking the law. Sports to survive in Bermuda, and I'm not just talking about football either. I'm not talking about our main sports, football, cricket. For sports to become relevant to us, it's got to have law to protect it.
Basically, you just made history.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you how you made history.
Yeah.
You tickled me to make me laugh with what you just said, because over the last 15, 20 years, the government are only interested in sport when someone's successful in it.
Yeah. So you would read the new sports policy, and the new sports policy that's in place. In that sports policy, and I'm wanting people to take advantage of what's written in there. That is a part of the sports policy that speaks of increasing the value for sports.
Yes.
And increasing the value of it is creating legislation around it.
On a piece of paper that makes sense. On a piece of paper that makes sense.
It really makes
But
sense.
the reality is, when will we see the government, regardless of who, when we will see the government move in that direction?
And that's the $1 million question, right? The $1 million question is those things. Now you need political will to legislate sports. You need it to be voted on in the House to create law around sports.
Boss, sports ain't giving it an important thing to have in the House. It's in the Senate.
Yeah.
The Minister of Sport over the last how many years has been in the Senate.
Okay.
Sports doesn't matter to these government officials.
Yeah. So
as much as sports touches every single household in this country, every single household, whether you play it or not, somebody in your family plays it, plays a sport, is involved in a sport.
Yeah.
But the House doesn't hear from sport unless it's from the junior minister of sport or from somebody else speaking in the sport. It's not from the minister of sport, because the minister of sport's in the Senate.
Exactly.
That's what I talk about when we talk about sport at the highest level. The government don't take it serious.
You don't want it to be a situation. Our country doesn't want it to be a situation where something bad happens that makes us legislate. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to give you an example. If it's a boxing match in Bermuda and somebody, God forbid, dies because of a blow to the head, we're going to be on the hook, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be on the hook because we don't have legislation that covers us. It doesn't have things that covers us. I can speak of years ago. Remember the wall that fell down up Bermuda College and it killed somebody?
Yes.
When they came to planning has legislation that protected them because they done things in the right way. So the government wasn't on the hook because law was there. So sports, and we sports people, we have to push the agenda. We passionate sports people have to push the agenda for sports to become law. Everywhere else is law. And we can write the law how we want it. Like I said, we know in sporting worlds outside Bermuda, because the media took off, you have to give an interview. There's no such thing as no comment. There's no such thing as there's no such thing as that, because we're promoting it and we're holding it accountable because it's our law.
I'm laughing because we just got a comment.
Yeah. Oh my gracious.
Oh yeah, look where he came from.
Today you are correct.
But if we just take a page out of someone else's book, Maceo, just like what the Dutch have done, what we have to stop just winging this thing. We're still winging it.
Listen.
And it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
And I think what we're talking about here is exactly what needs to be spoken about.
Yeah.
And things need to be pointed.
We have people in the ministry or the department who are sports inclined, right? But we have elected officials who are not, and are not interested in that part of. It's almost like we could sit here and talk about the lack of sport in the Department of Education, in our public schools. It is going down. So at a youthful age, we're struggling in just that area of sport. You know why? Because we've now in our minds become so entrenched on numbers of we need to make sure X amount of people graduate. We need to make sure that we are in this caliber of 80% or 80 percentile or 85 percentile. And for the educators, the top educators, sport, they don't worry about that. But, however, and I'll say this, and I've been saying this for a long time, if you give our young people who are not classroom orientated all day the opportunity to express themselves out on the field, you got a better student, you got a better person, you got a better.
My teacher used to, my mama said something to a teacher one time because in school, I didn't do my work. You know, I literally went to school to play football, right? And the days that you play football, and I remember a teacher saying, well, why, Macy, if you don't do your work, you can get an F, right? And she thought I was going to be scared about that. What I asked the teacher, I said, well, are you going to tell my mama and daddy? Like, if you give me an F and don't tell my mama and daddy, let me play football, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's actually okay for me. I mean, I was naive. I happened to be naive by having that opinion as a 13-year-old. You know, I'm saying, well, but I'm here to play football in school. I went college. I'm an example. I went college not to get a college education. I went college to play football.
Right.
And along the way, I got in an environment that says, hey, might not be bad that you get an education. Might not be bad that you do some schoolwork. You know, Marco Ponti was the one that introduced it to me. He's the first person that took me to play football out of college. You know, I think I was about 15 or 16 at the time, and he took me to a college, and we played in a tournament, and that was the first introduction I had to college. You know, but again, it was the sports that was important to me that created the life that I have. So, you know, we got to keep banging at this door. We got to keep banging at the door, and I think the ultimate solution, you know, and to Sadeo Deal's comment, yes, I am. I do find myself in the position of the sports development officer.
As an analyst on this show.
Yeah, as an analyst on the show, and I do find myself in a position where I have to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm quite happy to do that. You know, I'm quite happy to figure out how to put my money in my mouth is.
Yeah, my final take on this is this, sir. When I went up there and I saw all these young girls, a couple Saturdays ago, playing the young girls, and now with women's football, you see the young girls up there. There's potential, but it's got to be channeled right. It's got to be organized. Like young man coming up, you just can't. Okay, let me go back to what I said earlier about leaving places like Island Races. I know the family-oriented clubs. Oh yes, but if you got to have something that's structured so that you can say, look, this young talent here, he's going to be in the National Youth Program. We're going to have a National Youth Program academies at 10 years old. And I always say to my nephew, Macy, I say, what I thought I knew about football, about organization, I knew very little. And I got that my 3 years at Bournemouth. Just everything was the young, how much what happened off the field.
Yes.
You know, so what happens is when you get these young kids now, it's just what got to really nurture this talent, but have something in place that, like, and I always thought, well, I'll go back to this. Let me go back to this. When Remy, my grandson, on Thursdays, I had to take him. He's on the 13th. He was in school, but he had a day off because he's in the Bournemouth Academy. He had a whole day off, totally committed to football, education, and health. I said, that would be great. So you get these young 10-year-old from Island Ranges, put no player. So what we want to do is, what about on Thursday? You're totally committed to the sport. You're getting education being fed. I think we have to implement that. If that could, I don't know how that will work in terms of, you know, but I just think we have to. This is what we've been doing now. It's not good enough. Not for these good young players and these young girls that are coming up too. And like Macy said before, we could be these girls. Who knows how we can start exporting this talent?
Yeah,
more and more.
It's another thing that the country needs to be aware of. Any parent that's working hard enough, that saves up enough money, they send their kid overseas, right?
Overseas, yeah.
Overseas, and we're straight across the boards. I mean, we could talk about sailing, we could talk about Flora Duffy at 14 triathlon, we could talk about Sadeo Dio at 12, and Remy Coddington going over. Now, when you look at a financial number over the last 15 years, when you're giving $30,000 to another economy, over the last 15 years, with the amount of Bermudians that are left Bermuda, that's now over $100 million that's being spent outside of Bermuda. So it's $100 million over the last 10 years being spent outside of Bermuda in sport and development or education development, and that's got to be alarming to us. You know, that's got to be alarming to us that that type of money is leaving our economy, you know, at a rapid rate, you know, going to another economy. So I think we have to now, you know, we have to now get very serious about what our sport is and how valuable our sport's going to be, and not valuable from the point that we got an Olympic athlete and we want an Olympic. Is valuable about how we're going to develop people's lives.
Right.
You know, just for
Very good point.
Just for the sake of developing. If you want to be an Olympic athlete, you're gonna have to invest. But at least we could use sport. Like a parent like me, sport's been my best parenting tool. How I occupied I look at my daughter in gymnastics when the boys came around. She was too busy. At 14, 15, when the boys came chasing her, and she was too busy because she was doing gymnastics 6 days a week. She was traveling and she had her schoolwork. She was too busy. You know, I look at Sadeo as his behavior is still around sports. You know, how his lifestyle goes back to sport. I look at myself at 50 years old. I still build a lifestyle around sports. I still get enjoyment. I go cycling, and that's just for my lifestyle, right? Yeah. So we're not even talking about the Olympic athlete or that. We're just talking about for our lifestyle, you know. And we have to move our sports away from social sports to sports. So, you know, it's a lot, and I'm passionate about it from where I sit. I'm passionate about it, and there's a good team of people where I am. That's, you know, we had our first new woman director, you know, women organized people, right? So I'm passionate about it. I personally haven't lost hope, and I'm figured out in my journey of sports what needs to happen. And the simple thing, what needs to happen is we need to create sports law, and that protects sports. It's just like I'm protected as a citizen, as a person. If you beat me up, the law has protected me that you can just beat me up. You know, you could get prosecuted for it. So how come we could just beat up sports and the law don't protect it, and it does so much things for everybody, right?
Yeah. Well, and again, I would always go back and say that the people at the ministry understand it because they all come from a big sporting background.
Yeah.
From being involved in sports. The one major problem we have is that our elected officials might come from a sporting background, but as a supporter. And that's where we need to see. Right.
Yeah.
In order to legislate, they have to buy into what you guys at the ministry are feeding them, but how many of them actually understand that? And I think that's where the problem comes. You guys you got all the documentation, you have all the numbers, you have all the graphics and everything. It's just that we only at the government level get excited when someone does something well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got you on that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
So what we're going to do is take our final commercial break. When we come back, we're actually going to talk about Players of the Week and the Player of the Year. We'll be right back.
It seems everyone knows someone who's lactose intolerant or just avoiding dairy products. And fortunately, there's a growing array of delicious and nutritious alternatives. Pacific Natural Foods have been doing things their own way simply and sustainably for over a quarter century, making non-dairy beverages with the finest possible ingredients right down to the packaging. Try Pacific Natural Original and Vanilla Hemp Milk and Almond Original Plant-Based Beverage, all sweetened or unsweetened, and low sodium organic vegetable or chicken broth. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends, and that's what I'm thankful for.
It's putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Well, we're 2 weeks away. Well, we're 2 weeks out of Player of the Week. For the beginning of March, we had Marco Warren scoring 2 goals against St. George's to actually eliminate St. George's from the title race for PHC, and we knew that they went on to win the league. But also, Janai Bean scored 3 goals for Southampton Rangers against Somerset Eagles. Maceo, let me ask you first, and then Punchy, you'll get the first at the next week. Who would you say out of those 2 stood out for you?
Definitely Marco Warren. I mean, coupled with what he's done all season and the ability to score significant goals that leads to a league championship and his first one as a captain. I mean, that had to be a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure, and him stepping up in that type of circumstances. So for me, Marco Warren would be my son.
Sure. And Punchy?
I'd agree with Maceo. I mean, the young man is Southampton Rangers. He scored those goals, but he didn't advance who he was playing against.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely put Marco Warren as, the person that I would choose. Definitely.
Okay. Then the following week, we had Antoine Russell scoring 2 goals for Paget Lions against North Village Rams in the FA Cup semi-final. And in the league, Jordan Otterbridge scored 2 goals for Hamilton Parish in their 2-0 victory over Robin Hood. Punchy. Well, I'm sorry. Let me just say, I agree with you guys both on the Marco Warren being named Player of the Week. Punchy.
I'm gonna give. I would take Antoine on this.
Great.
And those penalties that he scored too. Whoa. They was really good, but just his leadership qualities and what he's learned this year, what he has learned this year. So I'm going with Antoine.
Okay, Maceo.
Yeah, Antoine was the first factor. It was amazing the first factor that he did have in that first half up there, and to even though Francis scored both of those penalties for him. And Francis scored 80% of his penalties.
Are you trying to say Antoine's in Francis' pocket or Francis in Antoine's pocket? What are you trying to say, Mason? I know you said it some time ago, and I missed the opportunity to ask you. So now I'm asking you.
Yeah.
I think Antoine's got Francis in his pocket, man.
Yeah.
Somehow, I mean, Francis scored 80% of the penalties for Antoine in his career, man. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Before we go to the player,
yeah, and but definitely, Antoine and the significance of the game to make it exciting in that first half. That was I'll be picking Antoine as well.
Yeah, we had a comment, on our topic before, and that is why Caribbean countries will pass us, because the governments are behind their sports governing bodies. So, I mean, in a sense, the government does support these sporting bodies. It's just like Maceo said, the only way to improve, we've almost got to legislate it.
You've got to legislate it.
And that's
Like,
where we go.
And I'll give Bermuda something else that's in the policy that we're going to also get courses. There is a piece of the policy that speaks to, providing leases for national sporting bodies over facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So an example of the government supporting the BFA building, that was a government property that has a 99-year Peppercorn lease. FIFA, the BFA then can use their membership at FIFA, where they got $1.2 million to build that building. So that's other national bodies have that. If you think of, let's think of the equestrian, the Bermuda Equestrian Federation. Imagine if they got a 99-year lease over Vesey Street. Imagine the financial clout that they have to develop Vesey Street. I know Patrick Nisbet, one of the people that ride horses. He rides a $11 million horse. So if people are bringing an $11 million horses here for a show, what do you think else they're bringing here? If a horse is $11 million, how many other $1 million they're bringing to our country?
And of course, he almost qualified the Olympics in, is here now, competing.
Oh, his horse that he is hurt?
Yeah.
I gotta go visit this horse there. I gotta go visit this horse. But those are the points that are in there with the team that at Youth for Sports put the points in there to try to stir sports in a good direction. So we're just gotta really get them across the line in the next 5 years of this policy, right?
Sure. Next time you're on Vesey Street at a horse jumping event, just ask for Da Vinci.
Okay, I need to meet this horse, man. Horses are $11 million.
Rakisha, I didn't get you in no trouble.
Yeah.
All right. So, a list of the players who have stood out this year, and we want to pick the player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start off with Detre Bell, Marco Warren, Paul Simons, Jonte Smith, Donovan Thompson, Blaze Hall, and Antoine Russell, as well as Shaquille Hill. We'll go down that list one more time. Detre Bell, Marco Warren, Paul Simons, Jonte Smith, Donovan Thompson, Blaze Hall, Antoine Russell, and Shaquille Hill. I would add one more person to that list, and I wanted to do that this way. The young man that played and go for PHC this year, CJ.
Mm-hmm.
Remarkable season, keeping them in many.
I didn't understand why he wasn't on the bench for the national team. I didn't understand.
Mason, you're right. You're right. I thought I've watched that young man. I've watched him even in the final up at Somerset. I mean, he's just watch him. His whole attitude, is such a professional attitude. He's as a goalkeeper. So I didn't know why he's not been, why he was in the national program. But again,
I just wanted to add his name to that list.
Yeah,
because of the season he's had for the PHC Zebras, playing majority of the Premier Division games. If you look at it, and I'll go down the list, PHC gave up 17, Devonshire Cougars gave up 17, North Village Rams gave up 17, and St. George's gave up 24, and that was due to the tail end of the season conceding a lot of goals. But when you look at what I just wanted to make sure. I did put this up only because are we going to have a conversation about the national team that played on Saturday? Well, Ms. Wade, I just want to say that on Saturday we were live prior to the game, and we were live after the game, and that's where we had a discussion about the national team. And I would suggest that you go back and watch those two shows that was discussing the national team. We wanted to make sure that this show here was about our first division championships and the promotion. Yes, and we do know, yes, Bermuda do play Haiti tomorrow night. We're getting the comments are coming in, but we haven't picked yet. So Mr. Davis, Marco was probably the most talked about player on this show. Why is he not playing for Bermuda? It confuses me. Well, Mr. Davis, I can tell you that I got a show with Marco Warren for an hour last week, Wednesday, and he explained, because I did ask him about why he's not in the Bermuda team, and he indicated that he was diagnosed as a diabetic, and he struggled throughout the season with the challenges of having to change his diet and everything. And he struggled through the season with that, plus injuries, and he just felt he needed a break, and that's why he did not commit to the national team for this game. But he's not ruled it out. He did indicate that. He hasn't ruled it out. So for that reason, I just wanted to clear that up before we go to Maceo. Again, you me run down the list, Maceo?
No, I'm got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
So Maceo, out of the 9 players selected, we have 8 Premier Division players, and of course, we could not leave out Antoine Russell, who has led Paget Lions to 2 trophies this year in the first division, leading goal scorer, and the whole bit. We didn't want to leave him out. So, Maceo, who would you say is the player of the year?
It's significant. I'll talk about out of those players. I'm gonna talk about 3 that stand out in my mind, and then what I'll do out of that 3, I'll give you who my pick would be. Yeah, and 3 that stand out in my mind, and the reasons that they stand out in my mind. First, Detroit Bow stands out in my mind. Detroit Bow as a goalkeeper, he's definitely single-handedly been the difference that North Village is just in the conversation. I don't think North Village would have been in the conversation without the Detroit Bow. So from that perspective, he's definitely in this conversation about the player, the player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Also in the conversation of the player of the year has been a revolution that I've seen, and it's been excitement, the way how Blaze Hall plays football. Mm-hmm. The way how Blaze Hall plays football out of St. George's, he's definitely in that conversation for the player of the year. His way of playing is, and the goals that he scored at the times that he scored the goals is actually uniting a whole community, right? It's setting a fire amongst a whole community, and it's creating a little belief amongst a whole community. So definitely Blaze Hall, deserves a mention from me in this category of player of the year. But I don't think it's an argument for me. It's not an argument for me with Marco Warren. There's not an argument what his leadership has done. And at the end of the day, his winning. Like when his winning, his leadership is not just exciting me. His leadership is not just winning a football game. It's winning titles. He scored the early goal in the friendship, title the other day. He's scored goals that's won the league for PAT. He's led a group of young players that weren't expected to do this well, because of all the accidents of players that they had. I mean, you had Antoine Russell leave, you had Takia Russell leave, you had 15 players leave PAT. You had Trey Ming leave PAT, and I mean, Marco has led a group of young players and helped organize a group of young players, and it's still going to be a travesty if he's not able to play in the finals. I still haven't heard about this yellow card situation. I think that's got to be.
I'll answer for you.
Yeah.
You are in for a disappointment, Maceo.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to play.
not going to be able to.
It's just that simple.
As far as I know, he's not going to be able to play.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I mean, I spoke to him about it as well, and he took that in stride. He took that in stride and trust of his team, and he has leadership. So I don't think it's a question as to who the player of this year has been. And I have a different opinion from I keep telling Antoine, he's our youngest cousin. He's my youngest cousin. He's the baby of the family. I'm the oldest one. And I have a different opinion about Marco and the national team. Like he needs to sock it through. Like he needs to be there somehow. Somehow he needs to be there country for the country. And I know it's been a heartache for him. I agree with Antoine in one sense that he's not been given the opportunity to show what is capable of. But this needs to happen. He needs to be there sometimes. So Marco Warren would be my pick out of those 9.
Punchy, you need me to run down the list, or you know?
No, you don't have to run the list down. You don't have to do that. It's hands down to Marco Warren. I mean, I applaud. Look, if you tick all the boxes about what he's achieved, you watch him. He might have an off day, but there's something still going to happen for how he makes PAC tick. And again, we're going to talk about his not inclusion in the national team, but that's not here. Right now, I mean, let's go on the list with Antoine. Okay, Antoine Russell's really good achievement, but look the division he's playing in, of course, the division. Let's be honest about that. Detroit Bell, yes. Oh, savior for North Village. Savior. But in terms of, well, what have we won? No. Already PH's got two cups under the belt. So let's start ticking all the boxes here. Blaze Hall, yes. What a revelation. What a revelation. But again, I say hands up for Marco Warren. Marco Warren. He wins this. For me, he just wins it.
Yeah. I battled between 4 players. And you've mentioned them. I battled with Blaze. I battled with CJ. I battled with Paul Simons. But ultimately, the one person that stands out in probably everybody's book, even those that are not the supporters of PAC, will have to say that Marco Warren has made a difference to this league this year.
Yeah.
In his leadership, in his playing ability, in his delivery and approach to the game itself. And that is what's made him and his team champions. He took it, he grabbed it, and he brought along a bunch of youngsters who, at times, they got lifts from different players in the goal scoring department when needed, when called upon. I'm pretty sure Janico Seeley came on of late in the last month. Those vital goals he scored, that confidence that grew. The young man Showers, the youngsters that they have all follow that model in which Marco has set for them. And I would have to agree with you guys, and I'm pretty sure we won't find too many people that would disagree. You'll probably find a few, but not too many would disagree. So we want to congratulate. First, Marco Warner's being the player of the week for the beginning of March. Antoine Russell, player of the week, and the player of the year. We want to congratulate Marco Warren. So we are in the midst of speaking with the Bermuda Football Association to have a pre-game and a post-game show for the FA Challenge Cup final on Sunday at the Lord Duffy Southfield Stadium at the National Sports Center. If that does come to fruition, we will be bringing you coverage before the game and after the game on Sunday. If not, we will be hosting the football show again on Monday, as if that game goes to extra time. We have to be cognizant of that. So we will host this final football show of the 22-23 season on Monday of next week. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll be in touch. Folks,
Thank you, guys.
have a good night.
Have a good night.